Welcome to the Drunken Fools podcast. We're joined here by Charlie Sheen, and we're waiting on the Nutty Professor. And we have two. We're both not fathers, but we have two fucking square, whack-ass fathers of children who have families and responsibilities, so they can't make it here. The Nutty Professor said that he may make it at 9:30, and it is currently 9:13, so we will see about that. And we have a an exciting news week to discuss, and so we should start discussing it. My number one area of consideration is that well, there are three big stories. Number one, Trump either was extremely tired or suffered a stroke on live television. Number two, well, that's not number one. That's kind of like secondary in importance to the behemoth, which is that Charlie Kirk was fucking murdered, uh, live in front of his family.
Yeah, well, anything is possible. Right now, we're still kind of trying to get the whole story of the whole official story of who this guy is and how he did it and why he did it. And there'll probably always be a bunch of gaps in it, but then we can start trying to connect it up with like, was he alone or was he working with other people? Was he working for some sort of entity, the federal government, the Democrats, the Republicans, Trump, the Russians, the Ukrainians, the Martians, or whoever?
Yeah,
But
look, I would say that those two guys that got arrested and then pulled out of custody, they'd be wise to just fucking pretend like they never existed and go I don't know where, Antarctica.
yeah, well, I mean, the one guy they claim he falsely confessed, and if he did that, that's really stupid because Um, but he's really lucky that they caught the guy because since they caught the guy, probably everyone will forget about him. But if the guy had actually gotten away because somebody falsely confessed and the police were able to blame him that on him, and the police would have a lot of motivation to blame somebody if they weren't able to come up with capture the killer. So he could have been looking at like accessory to murder after the fact. And
Exactly.
and then
Unless he spilled the beans on who it was.
yeah,
But
which he
as we know, his own family did that for him. He didn't need to spill the beans on the shooter. The shooter's loved ones and ones closest to him did that job for the fucking Curb Your Enthusiasm guy.
yeah, well that's a weird thing too because the guy's dad was the one who turned him in. Now
Mhm.
that's kind of understandable that maybe he's worried the that he could get shot if the police have to come apprehend him someplace. Um, and that he's much safer turning himself in. And also, this is not just going to like blow over and go away.
Mhm.
Sometimes, like if you punch someone in the face and you can just avoid the police for long enough, everyone kind of forgets about it.
Mhm.
But so I could see the dad wanting him to turn himself in. But what doesn't make sense, the dad is a cop with 27 years experience, and the guy after he turns himself in, he confesses, and you would think the dad would know enough to get a lawyer for this kid, being a cop. And really, you could call any lawyer, and they would jump in their car and speed right over there free of charge just to get their face on the camera. I mean,
Exactly.
you would instantly become the most famous lawyer in Utah. I mean, I don't know of any lawyers in Utah. Do you?
They're all Mormons, so they don't matter. But
So yeah, the advertising for your law firm would be priceless, and so you could get any lawyer you wanted to just you know come run right over, spit his food out, drop whatever he's doing, drop his baby on the floor, and speed over there so he could get himself on camera helping the guy turn himself in.
Yeah, I honestly, and these situations kind of are very difficult to understand. Like the guy who attempted to assassinate Trump was like in some way tangentially affiliated with BlackRock, and he was in commercials and shit. And then he just goes and fucking decides to try to kill him while, the Secret Service isn't looking around and they don't have an eye on him. It really I think about that quite a lot. Like, what are the chances that this fucking guy is just like a completely lone operator yet? And the other guy that tried to kill him in the fucking bush too was also in BlackRock commercials. So it's like, what the fuck is going on? If
Yeah,
it
that,
was them, it would be totally stupid to use people who've been previously known to be affiliated with you. So it doesn't make any fucking sense.
yeah, and the guy in Butler, Pennsylvania, that guy was on like a fetch quest from a bad video game. Nothing he did made sense. He went and bought a ladder that he ultimately didn't need, and he threw it away. He he put a drone in the air. He used a rangefinder. I mean, you have satellite images now. You don't need a rangefinder to calculate distance of things. And he completed all these different tasks, and like somebody gave him some sort of checklist to carry out. So I definitely think that there was some kind of um, I don't know who's behind them, but somebody was behind them, and it seemed like kind of like drugs and mind control and stuff like that. So MK Ultra type stuff. Yeah, I mean that's the answer to your problems. Don't kill Charlie Kirk, kill your family.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, this guy, his dad ratted him out. He's got some other family member who like ratted him out that he had radical ideas. I mean, that's not even relevant. Everyone's got radical ideas. It doesn't mean that they're
Yeah,
going to be right.
exactly.
And then his boyfriend or his girlfriend, I'm not sure what he likes to be called, ratted him out too, and he's working with the feds on the case, which is crazy. You know, if you care at all about the person, just exercise your right to remain silent. But it's not just the other person. If you care about yourself, exercise your right to remain silent, because you never know if the feds are going to try and link you in. If you're in a relationship with this guy, maybe he's been, whispering things in your ear,
Yeah,
and
exactly.
and they're going to say, why didn't you realize something was wrong?
And a big thing, the fact that the fact that the government, one of these things has to be a fabrication. The government originally says, "Hey, look, it was performed with." You told me an Enfield, but everywhere I look says a Mauser. I've looked on a few platforms.
Yeah, it the first reports was an Enfield, and then it
Mhm.
changed to a Mauser, which is weird. Um, but they are both rifles from World War that I think were designed in the late 1800s and used in World War One. And this one, they're calling it a World War II rifle, probably because it would have been chambered in a German cartridge,
Mhm.
a metric cartridge, and so it was probably retrofitted for 30-06 was the American round that we used um, in World War II, and the M1 Garand was a 30-06. So that's what probably dates it at World War II. But yeah, odd two World War II era rifles, and maybe a picture was released, and somebody in the early report like picked the wrong one.
It could be, but either way, there's no footage of him carrying the gun with him in any of the pictures that the DOJ released. And then he's up on the building. Charlie Kirk got shot at 12:23 Mountain Time. And at 12:23 in the fucking video footage, you could see him running down with only his backpack. And then they say he tried to stuff the rifle in his leg. That to me just sounds like total horse shit. Like they're trying to grasp at straws for like how to how to how to excuse the fact that there was no rifle in the fucking video. Because when he's walking away, it doesn't look like a limp. They were like, "Oh, well, looks like he's limping," and that's because he stuffed his rifle down his pants. It doesn't look like that to me at all. It looks like he's just walking and he just tried to blend right in with the campus, just go back to being a normal person. And it doesn't make sense to me. And then you have, past that, you know, basically the argument there would be, oh, well, he stashed the gun on top of the building beforehand. Sure, I'll give you that. But then your argument would then have to be, oh, but after the shooting, he disassembled the gun and threw it into his backpack, and then went into a wooded area behind the campus and reassembled it and left it sprawled around with like "I love trans people" on the fucking on the magazine or whatever the fuck.
They released the governor of Utah made a video where he reads each of the inscriptions on each of the bullets,
I
and
did see
the,
that.
the one "I love trans people" disappeared, and the so that must have been incorrect. And the only mention of trans people is something about some saying about finding a bulge,
Yeah,
like
exactly.
finding a bulge, oh no, or something like that. So that's not necessarily, if anything, it's anti-trans, but it could also be a joke. Like if you have trans friends, you might joke around about finding a bulge. So it could go either way. Just like the one that says if you're reading this, you are gay. That could be anti-gay, but actually it's pretty funny because it was intended for the police to read when they found the gun. But if he engraves something that he intends the police to read, why is he talking about the need to recover the gun?
Yeah,
If you're going to recover the gun and all the shell casings, then what's the point of engraving the shell casings with messages for the police?
exactly.
It's kind of contradictory. Same like the gun itself, how he gets it to the roof. If he if he stashed it up there ahead of time, that shows he was aware of the dangers of walking around or the danger and difficulty of walking around with a gun on campus. And if he disassembled it, that gun takes about 5 minutes to put back together. It's not made to be broken down, but you can take anything apart. It just takes mechanical ability and tools and stuff like that. But modern guns some of them can fold up or come apart very easily to fit in a backpack.
Sure. And
So
there's been some speculation of people that I know saying that it may be a ghost gun. Um, and I'm not positive of that, but that goes back to the ultimate point that no matter what it was, the government by necessity must be lying about something. Like the FBI must be lying about one factor of the whole ordeal. And if they are, then what the fuck, the whole thing could be a fabrication. And they severely undercut their own credibility by choosing to, like, for example, I believe that if this guy really did do it, then the rifle that they found with trans remarks on them was just a total fabrication to stir shit. But why would you do that? Why would you engage in that sort of trickery if you're really wanting to bring the guy who really did it to justice? That is, unless the guy who did it is Israeli and you don't want to bring him to justice, because then if you bring him to justice, then some Mossad agents will come over and start blowing people's brains out, and you won't really know why. However, I do have to say that I am not certain of that assertion, specifically because the guy took the shot, it hit his body armor and deflected to hit his jugular. And that's why in the video, which I had a really difficult time watching, it's very disturbing. And it happened in front of his wife and kids, and his father was there. His head kind of goes up before he slants down.
It had to be. I mean, if he was aiming for the chest, the shot was good. He might have just not known that Charlie had body armor. If he was aiming for the head, then he didn't calculate. Well, his aim could have not been that good. He could have expected to have to take more shots, and that's why he engraved more bullets. As it played out, he didn't have to eject a single round. So the first shot he fired, the shell casing was still in the gun. So if he successfully recovered the gun, um, the then he would have recovered the shell casings. But if he had to go through multiple rounds and work the bolt to chamber more rounds, each shell casing would be ejected and they would have been left on the roof. But but yeah, he could have not calculated the drop of the bullet over the distance. A bullet from where you're aiming, the bullet's going to drop a certain amount per so many feet.
Of
Just
course. And there was wind involved. It was like 15 miles per hour of wind, you know? And that's I mean this is all the to even hit it close to the guy is a feat. Sniping in wind is like, you have to hone your skills.
Yeah, you have to take into account the windage, and I think what happened, the bullet hit the edge of the body armor, ricocheted, and it ricocheted straight up and hit Charlie in the neck, and then from there it went straight up into his head because there's no exit wound. So the
Yeah.
when it hit him, I think was significantly slowed down, and it was tumbling or deformed. So it made a large entrance wound and no exit wound. And of course, anything that goes into your brain is going to kill you. And that's why he kind of stiffened up and just died instantly.
Yeah. And I mean, he didn't, unfortunately to say, he didn't have much of a shot, to begin with, because when that happened, people that I know were like, "Oh, well, he might pull through. It's a miracle if he pulls through." I was like, "That motherfucker's not pulling through because that bullet, the fucking bullet just vaporized his fucking jugular vein. There's no way. There's
Yeah, I didn't.
unfortunately no
Luckily, I
way."
didn't see the video. Um, well, I couldn't see it because it said I had to be 18,
Mhm.
and then
The
then
news came out that he was dead.
yeah,
Yeah.
the news came out that he was dead, and then I saw someone analyze the body armor aspect of it, and they ended the video the second the bullet made the entry wound into the neck, which that was all that was necessary for the video.
Of course.
But but the type of body armor he was wearing was like a hard steel plate or titanium, which has the benefit of being very thin. And so you can wear it under a t-shirt like Charlie was wearing because he's trying to be a college kid. And there's other body armor that has a steel plate. And then on top of that, there's another inch of material that's like made to capture bullets because it's a known problem that with a hard metal plate, you're going to get ricochets and lead splatter and things like that. That if that hits you in the head, you have a problem. But you'd have to have heavier clothes on to cover it, and then you look like a fat ass. And that could be why Trump actually, after watching this video where the guy gave an analysis, I realized that could be why Trump sometimes he looks like a fat ass.
Yeah.
If he's wearing that heavier body armor that captures bullets and then filling in your plates are only on your chest and your back, and then so you fill in the other areas on your sides and stuff with Kevlar, and you're basically wearing a fat suit. So
There you go.
little
We gotta
like,
go to Rob for to match up 1v1. Maybe I think Rob's fat is to the extent that it's so it's so like
oh,
ossified
that
over the
thing.
generations that it can probably catch a ballistic, projectile.
I saw a thing that said somebody joined. I'm not sure if
Yes, that's our friend who's not the nutty professor.
Spartacus.
Spartacus, yeah, there you go. This is Spartacus, and we've been discussing the fact that Israel murdered Charlie Kirk. Yeah, we
Wait, wait.
immediately have to start pointing out the various aspects of
As
how
soon as he
Israel
gets
has like propagandized like school textbooks and the media and everything like that. We
Okay.
have to inch it further and further.
I'm just here to express my view about this particular thing, and I don't know what else is going on for the rest of the meeting, so that's my disclaimer. Uh, whatever
Okay.
you whatever you guys are talking about before or afterwards, uh, I'm not sure about that and have no control over it.
Okay, that's understandable. None of us are using our real names. All the names will get bleeped out or whatever. So,
All right,
Newt Nutley, the Nutty Professor.
right.
That's just my nickname for him, guys. And we're waiting. Oh, there's
There's
iPhone
Mr.
SE second generation.
Hello, Mr. C.
SE.
SE, SC,
So we've
SC.
we've
Doesn't give me
just
an option to put in my name.
that's interesting. Well, whatever the case may be, we're here with Newt Nutley, Newt Bust the Nut, and iPhone SE second generation. And iPhone SE second generation and I just got done discussing the impossible physics of the bullet that flew toward Charlie Kirk and demolished his jugular vein.
I mean, first that was wild. That video is unbelievable. It's actually amazing that it stayed up for so long because a lot of times these things tend to disappear immediately, but this one hung around for a little while. Um, and I guess if everybody's here, I'll just I think. My guess, and it's just a guess, my first instinct is usually like, or usually develops into like what my official guess is going to be. Um, and I think that I don't think it was the liberals. And I'm not saying that as a liberal, oh, Mr. Fake Name, hello. I'm not,
So,
uh, I am a liberal, but I'm not going through that, from that angle, trying to like save that side from blame or from possibly starting something. I'm not doing it just to kind of deflect. It is my honest analysis is that it feels it's usually like the people who are close to you or supposed friends that tend to organize these things. I mean, in any aspect of life, I can tell you from personal experience, sometimes the people you think are in your camp that, you're coordinating with are the ones like working behind the scenes against you. So I think that that's the case here. I'm not sure what it might be, but I think that the president may waver from the official mission and the official reason that he was kind of that a path was paved for him to the presidency twice. And I think when you waver, whether it's through geopolitics or whatever it might be, there are warning signs from those who don't like it. And I think that this is probably one of those things where it was probably organized by people he probably believes are looking out for his best interest. And
So,
yeah,
in short, you believe the common saying, "It be your own niggas." Sometimes it be your own niggas.
It do though. It do.
I mean, a lot of times it is your supposed brothers, that your supposed teammates that really like come out when it counts and mess you up. So yes, that's what I believe. I believe that it was done from somebody that is supposedly on his side in order to make sure that he stays true to the mission and doesn't get waylaid by things such as, conscience, morality, and whatnot. Um, and I think that's what it is. I think this kind of thing is, very hard for an outside group to plan. Um, there's the usual nonsense. I don't know how real it is. There are videos of people pointing, oh, there's someone on the roof. I saw one of those videos. There's someone on the roof. Look at that. And nobody did anything about it, that type of thing. Um, and I think, those types of things are red flags, where it's like not, if there's an opposition figure, like what you see throughout history and you see even in modern times in, Eastern European countries or like some other countries where there's like a lot of battling back and forth, you'll see, some wild lunatic just come in and they'll do things ranging from like they'll smack you over the head with a cane and then get dragged away, or they might, get a shot at your neck or something, which we've seen happen. I think something happened in what was it, Slovenia a few months ago, like a year ago, like that, where a big figure was Korea. I think we saw in Korea or Japan. I think it was Japan where somebody was, a candidate was assassinated. So usually when it's opposition, they just like come in and take a desperation swipe at you. And usually when it seems something that, it seems to be something organized, like, let's say something that happened in the early 60s, it's usually your own people or people that you trust that are behind it.
Agreed. I agree with all that, with all those points, and thank you for elucidating your position. In the previous part of this, before we had to go into our break, iPhone SE and I discussed the the manifold videos, and there were plenty of aspects about this, the patsies involved, the fact that in this video you couldn't possibly disassemble a Mauser 3006 rifle with enough time past when the video description is. That security camera was timed at like 12:23, like 46 seconds or something. Additionally,
Well,
the
also, that would be insane to sit around disassembling your rifle
after you make the
afterward.
shot. And it
Yeah.
doesn't look like in the video that he has anything. We could provide, I mean, along with the audio here in this section, I will provide you a slow motion zoomed in view of the fucking guy. It doesn't look like there's a rifle, and they say that he's limping. It doesn't look like he's limping. So who
Well,
the fuck
he
is this
might be
guy?
limping. He might be limping because he just jumped off like a two-story roof. The
It doesn't even
really
look like he is, though.
anyone smart enough to know to conceal the rifle, that either stash it ahead of time or disassemble it and reassemble it. Anyone smart enough to know that would also know it's dumb as shit to try and run away with the rifle from the
Yes.
scene of the crime. So anyone with that much sense would have just left the rifle on the roof and been done with it. Taking
So
it to the woods is insane.
exactly. So to speed run our previous discussion, we came to the conclusion that, the government must be lying about at least one aspect of this. So yes, I agree with, I mean, you could see like parallels to other regimes like fucking Castro when he was propped into power. he started killing motherfuckers ad nauseum, who aided propping him up into power because, as George Carlin made the point, you're worried they're going to come for you next. But I don't think it's the Trump administration. Uh, I do, I do have an inkling of who might be doing it. Uh, and it's probably my guess is that it's probably Israel. Since right now Israel's international standing is kind of propped up by a U.S. puppet support system. If the U.S. stopped supporting Israel, they'd just be economically ravaged. But then again, you have to wonder about the wrath of Israel and what they could possibly do in a case where our government decided to stop bankrolling them, what would happen? I believe that the government is so is probably so thickly occupied that it'd be very tough for just a clean break because it's like a relationship. You try to break up and all of a sudden like the cops are at your door and there's like bullshit going down. It's the same thing. Like suddenly you stop the flow of dollars to Israel, and all of a sudden, all your big lobbyists and celebrities and politicians are, there's videos of them like skull fucking a 13-year-old out, and you're like, what the fuck? And then all people are dropping dead. It's like, what's going on? I think it very well is Israel. And that's because close friends and aides of Kirk have expressed that he had a very close relationship with Israel in the beginning, and Netanyahu, even in the months preceding his death, this news comes from the most recent Tim Dillon podcast, which I would uh, refer to anyone if they want like a like a source that kind of corroborates this end of things. This guy was telling Tim Dillon that
You can use my
Netanyahu personally um, offered to buy out Turning Point USA and bankroll him if he spread Israeli propaganda, which Charlie Kirk wasn't about. And there are just so many instances of, Israel having undue influence over our government. And I think this is just
Hey,
one more of those situations. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, well, I was thinking, what would be like a beautiful story is I don't know if you guys how much you guys know about this fella Nick Fuentes.
Yeah.
Gained he's what the kids are calling a generational run, but his whole backstory, his Joker story, if you will, his whole backstory was that when he was like a kid, 18, back in like 2016, he was reached out to by like Turning Point, Charlie Kirk's people, and he was gonna have like a good position with them, and but he was also young, and he was on the internet a lot, and he was seeing all these things people were saying about Israel, and so for a while he was doing good. I forget the name of the woman, the Turning Point woman that was like trying to like basically sponsor him or like get him in, but she was like, yeah, you should go to Israel. They were like, we'll pay for your trip to Israel. Israel's always like, yeah, we'll pay for, your trip here, whatever. And he's like, nah, I'm okay. And he started like asking them like, hey, why, people were pointing out that we're sending all this money and all the things people have been pointing out about Israel. And he was like asking these questions. Suddenly the people from Turning Point were like, no, wait, you know what? Forget about it. You're being anti-Semitic. And so he was like promised something, and then they took it away from him because he was not down with Israel. And I don't know much else about this guy. I've seen videos over the years. Just recently, he's been like all over, and he's been like a huge influence, I guess, on like the Zoomer crowd, the younger guys. But he was always making fun of, Charlie Kirk for being like a moderate, whatever. He was always like his op, with the infighting on the right. Um, and so there you can find a lot of videos of him talking his shit. on Charlie Kirk. And I was like, so when this came out, of course, my expectation was, oh man, that's a bad look. But I'm sure like this Nick guy, like he's not a monster, you know. I'm sure he'll have something nice to say. Sure enough, he was like, man, that's sad. Pray for Charlie, whatever. And he's like, whatever I've said in the past, you know, it's not important now. This is evil. This person's a monster. Whoever did this. I'm like, okay. And then as we were waiting for the suspect to come out, I was like, oh my gosh, you know what? You know, it would be just like artful as if they pinned it on somebody that within the right, like who would be the perfect person? Somebody with the Joker backstory of you know, questioning Israel, getting kicked out from Turning Point, and talking so much shit on this guy that it angers even other conservatives or right wingers that somebody would be so angry to do this. Sure enough, as soon as the suspect came out, as you know, as a white guy, people started doing this, and I also thought of how I just feel like it's like Shakespearean. I'm like I don't know if people are really still pushing that. Last I saw on Twitter, that was something people were pushing. But the funny thing is, and we talked about this already, is like there's that video of Charlie Kirk, who was I mean I'm pretty sure he was pro-Israel before. Am I wrong?
Mhm.
Yeah, well, he was in a video recently talking to like Ben Shapiro, notorious tiny hat, and not in a bad way, but and he's like, well, you know, a lot of people have been questioning me, and I don't know how to answer them about something what we're doing with Israel, and he like said like the slightest question. You see Ben Shapiro raise his eyebrows for a minute, and then people were joking from then on, like, oh, something's gonna happen. And one of his close friends, somebody was like, yeah, Charlie's been scared to die recently because he thinks I don't know, he said something that was I don't know. He was just scared that one of his close friends allegedly claimed to be, or somebody he knew or somebody he worked with said
Yeah,
that
that
he
he
was
was
like,
terrified of Israel. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so, you know, that happened. He got shot, and I was like, man, it'd be crazy. It would be crazy if the shooter came out. This is for the sake of comedy. Something funny I saw, maybe a little racist, was somebody on Twitter said like, oh, people acting like we should be surprised that it was a white man, but any real racist knew as soon as the shot was confirmed to be over 10 feet that it was a white man. I was like, man, that's messed up, but it made me laugh. But you know that I have no real theories. For me, it's hearing all these are interesting. I just mostly like to just listen. Um,
Well,
what Ramos
what
is
you say
saying,
is true. That I know a lot of people that I know the stories out that Kirk was maybe looking like he might go against Israel a little bit, and that fits with a lot of people who are pro-Israel are finding it harder and harder to justify everything that's happening. Like even pro-Israel people are kind of like they'll support. They say they support Israel, but then they want to change the subject quick. They don't really want to
yeah, it's
like.
becoming more and more
Yeah,
like,
because how do you defend such like an open bloodbath? Like how do you go about defending like some of these tweets that you see are insane. Like that there were a few tweets that were rolling around a little while ago. Like some guy was like, well, this is what happens when you join the IDF. You get to rape 14-year-olds, and he was like, I enjoyed a 14-year. I was like, what the fuck? So you see this sort of shit, especially younger people. I mean, people in the younger generation who are actively online, there's more of an opportunity for them to consistently see shit like this. When you see shit like that, it's like you want to let other people know, like this is what representatives of this cohort, claim to, claim to uphold as their like moral standard, as well as what you see with your own lying eyes, you know?
I would just rewind a little bit back to what I was saying about the president's supporters or handlers, whatever you want to call them. The Israel theory, I've heard it. and I did hear some of the stuff that Kirk was changing over. There are other people that are part of that the president's camp that have helped him get into power. Uh, we can't forget about the Russians. The Russians are currently fighting a culture war. In essence, in Europe, there is a battle for what Europe is going to look like. Is it going to look like post Bretton Woods? Is it going to look like America dominated Western Europe? Let's bring democracy and, whatever.
It's going to look like Haiti.
Well,
Yeah.
well, in the end, usually that's what it winds up
A
being.
lot
I
of
can only hope.
Haitians.
But I bring it up
Imagine how
because
fitting seeing those people around the beautiful cathedrals. I'm sorry, continue.
I bring it up because I believe Vladimir Lenin, one of his many great quotes is like, when you want to find out who's responsible for something, you want to look at who benefits. And the Russians are very like involved in a culture war in Europe that's also playing itself out in the United States in the conservative liberal argument. The conservative movement tends to be pro-Russian for the most part, pro-Putin, I should say. Um, from my perspective. So having somebody killed that's like a young, you know, hero of the right, I guess, and then pinning it on liberals would also enrage a lot of the right wing and outrage them and would also increase support for Russia and Russia does have, from at least from my perspective, they do seem to have a tight grip on media in America as well as everybody else. Not that they run American media, but
I think
there's a
there's
lot of
one more contender that might have an even tighter grip on American media than Russia does.
well, I mean, we that was already that's been discussed. I just want to bring up that the Russians are definitely a possibility, and they're completely capable of something like this, and we have to sit around and think about the influence that the Russians might have over the administration. I happen to think, and I don't think it's I'm not saying it's fact, but I happen to think that the administration is very anti-Ukraine, very anti what Western Europe is trying to do right now, whatever you might think of it, whatever we might think of it. And I think that there were the drone incursions into Poland. There are a lot of things developing over there. The Russian economy is collapsing, and gas lines and people withdrawing their money. So maybe it could also be a warning. Maybe Kirk himself wasn't necessarily the target, but was a symbol that was meant to like get like other people scared that they could be next. Because there are similarities between what happened with the attempted assassination of the president. Well, when he was campaigning, was
And Butler.
and this it's kind of similar, like to me it just struck me as as a sequel to that. So there are the Russians, then there are also the neocons, the neocons that are not necessarily affiliated with Israel, the hardcore old school neocons that might also be upset about some of the stuff that's going on during this administration geopolitically. And so we should, keep our minds open to all of those possibilities. I wouldn't be so quick to go after Israel for it.
Very true.
There are multiple possibilities, is what I would say.
I
I
hear
wouldn't
you
put
on
my money
that.
on anything.
Yeah, it could
Yeah.
also be the Amish.
I knew it.
You can't
I
trust
mean,
them.
you could get away like 10 miles an hour on those horse and buggies. So like, I'm pretty sure I saw one in a picture.
Yeah,
I mean, anybody
exactly.
check butter stock? Like, is it going up? Butter companies,
That's a good
distributors.
question. That's a
Um,
good question.
um,
Nancy
so
Pelosi might have bought some shares in
Dude,
Butter Incorporated.
the Amish are the real Israel, listen to this. They can. So my grandma had some land in like in the middle of PA, very rural area. And I guess the Amish are allowed to just, if they just start using your land and you don't notice, there's some law in place that they can just say, "Oh yeah, it's mine now." So they stole land from my
Possession.
senile grandma. It was
I mean,
crazy.
I think to go back, I mean, Russians do that as well. They have a history of invading countries, sending a bunch of citizens there, and then 50 years later telling you that they're invading to protect their citizens. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a pretty, the Amish, yeah. That's pretty foul though. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I don't know what the law is called or whatever, but
Squatters'
I remember looking
rights,
at what is it?
crackhead rights.
Dude, that's funny.
No, it's not squatters' rights. It's called adverse possession. And the idea is if you use someone else's land openly and it's got to be out in the open, it's got to be flagrant for everyone to see. If you use somebody's land like that for so many years, then similar to squatters' rights, the law assumes that there was some kind of deal there where if it's the entirety of the land that you purchase the land, or if it's a portion of the land, like they take over your backyard and start growing vegetables there for 10 years or however long, that you made some kind of a deal, you granted them an easement, or you did something. So you,
That
you
makes
really
sense.
need to defend your land, really, is
Yeah.
down to.
I should have bought my grandma a gun. I mean, she could barely get out of the rocking chair, but
Hey, listen,
Or if she wasn't on site there, have a neighbor or somebody, like pick the most drunk, violent neighbor you have. Say,
yeah,
hey,
that would work.
look after my land for me. I'll buy you a case of beer once a month.
Yeah, yeah.
Buy there and make sure if there's any Amish people around, just kick their ass.
If my
I
dad
feel
ever needs a side hustle, he can figure that one out quick.
if they
I,
just put some little curly cues on those hats they have next to their ears, I feel like it might be fitting when they do things like that. Look a
I
little more
think
aesthetic.
I think we just want to keep our eyes on the possibility that if this narrative that it was some transgender person or somebody affiliated with transgender people that decided to put insignias on their weaponry or whatever and shoot a conservative, um, that is going to like create an enormous amount of hate and just
Mm.
extend the divide. It's horrible as it is. It'll be even worse. So we want to keep our eyes on that because since the beginning of time, divide and conquer. So you want to kind of steer away from that. I don't buy it, but it seems like that's gaining traction. And then on the other side, just that there are multiple parties that are capable of organizing something like this behind the scenes, and to leave room for the possibility that the president in some way actually wants to like avoid bloodbaths and all sorts of like continuations of war. I think as a liberal, I would agree. It's probably in his best interest for all these wars to die down, and he can get back to domestic policy and taking care of that, and taking over Latin America, which is where really what America has wanted to do for decades. But um, so I think that he would want all of this to die down. And I think that there are people in his administration that don't want it to die down, whoever they may be. We have multiple suspects, and they're perfectly capable of organizing something like this. So I think once we keep that in mind, I think we can see how the facts come in and how everything plays out before we
Well,
kind of say
well,
anything for sure.
regardless of who might be behind it, most likely the guy who carried it out does have a liberal ideology, just because it's easier to get people like that to do stuff like this.
I agree.
Conservatives tend to be more individualistic, so they're concerned with their own stuff, and it's really stupid to sacrifice the rest of your life. You're going to be in jail the rest of your life, or you're going to ride the lightning. I think
Go Metallica records. Um,
I think
uh,
Utah has the firing squad, not the electric chair. You
right,
ride the lightning in New York, but
right.
it really is stupid. And for what? All you did is somebody
I
else or other people are going to fill that void of going and talking to college students. Somebody's going to be conservative
right.
college.
Like Goodman Shapiro.
The way I look at it is like you go to the gas station and you get a water bottle. You pull the water bottle out. What happens? The water bottle shift back, and it's just like nothing's changed except you have this one water bottle. So you get rid of somebody. Somebody else comes in and takes their place, and it's probably worse. You probably made a martyr out of them. It's actually worse. The communists in the teens, in the 19 teens, used to use that strategy. You'd get somebody you didn't like killed, and it would just like build a increased fan. I disagree that with SE Generation Two. Conservatives are just as capable of carrying out assassinations as anybody. I mean, you don't have to have a liberal ideology to become a marksman with a gun and shoot someone in the jugular from a roof however many feet away. Yeah,
I would like to add in something here, which is that you mentioned something toward the cultural divide, and I think it's pertinent to point out that who I believe is a total patsy and totally did not fucking do anything, probably cut in on some sort of backroom deal. Tyler Robinson he did have a known history of very fringe far right views. And as Levi said, that it would be the perfect thing to, make up some sort of false cover of a guy who, uh, had these very fringe viewpoints that Kirk would have disagreed with as the person you know, to set up and involve in the scheme. I don't think he did it at all. And left versus right, I think the whole conversation, supersedes it because I don't think it was a politically motivated assassination at all. This was 100% to send a message. If it were a politically motivated assassination, they would have gotten this guy on the tour bus or outside of his house or something.
I
You know,
agree.
that
It was to send a message.
and they made sure, his family was there watching, his father, his kids, his wife, and they made sure the whole world was watching. And I think it was professionally done. So, but I
Agreed.
also think that said something about the cultural divide that's rising up in response to this whole dilemma. Um, you have people on the right that are saying like that we have to like extinguish liberalism or something, or that they're all bad, which I think is such a hop, skip, and a leap past anything coherent. That this is not it's not I just don't think you can heft the blame onto a whole group of people. And I think that there are only very specific people that are doing that. I don't think it's the whole, but I think it's the vocal minority that's bringing this sort of viewpoint into place that it's like, oh, well, even Sam Hyde recently has been making some questionable statements like this is the time for the Trump administration to crack down. I'm like, crack down? What I
Which is
don't
which
think
is funny because I'm like, what do you mean cracked? Like, what would they do? What would they put in place? What would you? What
exactly.
would I mean, like, yeah, he's a great. I mean, I'm like him in the way that I'm more culture oriented than politics or history or any, So that's why I'm mostly staying a little quieter than you guys on this because I just don't know as much as you guys. But like, I know logically, like, what is there possibly that Donald could crack down on. Besides just giving his grievances, I don't know what he could do.
I
Well,
think
Exactly.
he could go after the money because a lot of this stuff is funded by billionaires and millionaires and people who have agendas, and so stuff that seems organic is not organic at all because it has huge
Yeah.
funding behind it, and that's partly part of what Trump was doing with USAID. We're doing very little foreign aid with that. We were going all over the world and starting trouble and destabilizing governments and creating culture wars and labor strikes and all kinds of strife. And so they could go after the money, at least expose it. Even if you don't stop it, at least expose who's funding what. And you can do that now with AI, because a lot of this money is filtered through 10 or 20 uh, shell organizations. It bounces all over the place before it gets where it's going. And now with some of these algorithms, they can really track stuff down.
I would also say, like, astroturf movements, which is what you're like referring to, or big billionaires will fund like a protest, and then the protest will be on the news, and it'll become the name on everyone's lips. All of this organization fighting for these rights, um, or causing trouble in this way or that way. I think that runs both ways. You start taking out one side's funders, the other side's funders are going to go down. I think when I hear it, and you could be right, it could be that that's what he means, because he's totally capable of just like charging ahead like that. It tracks for him, the president. I would say there's also the possibility, if you look at history, if you look like Mussolini, when Mussolini said we need to crack down, usually it led to a bunch of bars known for having socialists or whatever group of people there, and a bunch of thugs come in there and kick everyone's ass, or that sort of thing, like bringing fear to the opposition through like small social kind of attacks on people. So it could also be a harbinger of like fascist strongmanism. It could be that as well, and that's the biggest fear. You start demonizing, oh, there's somebody on the left, and all of a sudden, all these people are getting beaten up and killed, whatever. And then a couple of gay guys walking down the street, they get beat down, and so that is what like has happened in history. And I won't even go into the Germans, whatever, because it's cliche. But the Mussolini administration, the Mussolini years were really a good example of how things work, I think. And so crackdown for me means that, crackdown means like
Well,
micro, yeah.
for the record, I'm in favor of taking away everybody's money and including the right, but there's way more money on the left, or maybe the left is the wrong word for it. There's way more money behind, you know, you could call it globalism, or the globalist agenda. You could call it imperialism, like some people on the left call it imperialism, which is like the American European system.
Block.
There absolutely is more money on the left. There absolutely is more money, but
And
there's
yeah,
a
a lot
significant
of this
amount of
stuff
money on the
doesn't
right.
happen organically. And if you want me to go out and make a sign and go out to the side of the road and hold the sign, you should have to convince me to do that, not like pay me to do it out of some
Well, you
fun.
could argue paying someone is convincing them.
That's what the Supreme Court would have argued when they passed fuck, what's the name of that legislation that allows companies to endlessly
Oh,
donate to
yeah,
your
I don't
campaign?
remember the name, but I know there was some rulings that they said spending money is a form of speech, of free.
Speech. Yes, that was, I forget the name right now. Man, that sucks, but I will
The
come
put your money
back.
where your mouth is group.
Yeah, I will come back with the name in hand, uh, because we're going to take a little bit of an ad break, and I will come back having looked up the name, uh, knowing exactly what it's called. It sucks, it's on the tip of my tongue. I can't remember it. All right, here's our ad break. We'll be back. Citizens United was the name of that court decision. So, what's also interesting, I believe that we've put the whole query to bed. We can't right now. We can't really decide who did Charlie Kirk. We have to wait for more information to come out, even though Mr. Benjamin Netanyahu uh, tweeted very shortly after uh, Charlie Kirk's death. He was the first world leader to mourn his death before we even
Yeah,
had
yeah.
known he died.
Netanyahu is kind of on the O.J. Simpson "I didn't do it" speaking tour since it happened.
Yeah, exactly. So we've seemed to have quelled that we won't really know who did it, but
Is not coming back or
I don't know. He's probably coming back.
all right.
Yeah, so if you want to talk shit about him, get it in
Oh,
now before he
now's the
gets.
time.
Yeah, so anyway, I think one interesting part of this whole debacle is the president seems to have released an AI statement and he showed up the next day. There was a guy on Twitter talking about him having mini strokes and he seemed to have stroked out during a like a 9/11 memorial thing. And I thought that was very interesting. And I should say that it's pretty insane. The news cycle this week in particular, it's pretty insane. It's been tough to wrap my mind around.
Just last week I was thinking like, man, I wish something would happen.
I
This
know
week
it's
I'm
so
kind of
boring.
exhausted.
I know. It's like all I'd hope for. Fake name and I have been talking a whole lot over the previous few months, and I've expressed this to iPhone SE second generation. That it would be really funny if like the only way I'd ever get entertained by the news is if Donald Trump in the middle of a like a national address or something went down and started sucking his own cock.
Yeah, I sucked as that's when I would bat an eye. That's when I would look over and be like, oh, let's look at the news. Uh, like like
Exactly.
like lips to the top of the shaft, like sort of smacking. So I don't know, but that's like I'd have to hear. Okay, well, how deep in the mouth? How deep? To the
Exactly.
base, and then that's when I would consider. Okay, let me look at the news. But this
The
past week
internet
has been
sleuths.
delivering.
The
Yeah,
the
well,
internet sleuths.
what you guys are saying is absolutely true, and that's why it's so stupid to go out and like get yourself put in jail for the rest of your life for some sort of political violence, or even to like not get along with people and not want to be friends with people because they have a different opinion. Like this is a pinko communist, but that hasn't stopped us from being friends for 20 years or more. So yeah, really, it's a lot of the stuff that happens. It's not important to your life, to the people you love, to your goals in life of what you want to do, build a family, be successful, things like that. And it's really dumb. Like if you feel like frustration or hate or anger coming in, it's just really dumb to let those feelings take any kind of root.
Exactly.
It's true. And it's a damn shame that we probably will not see the day that Donald Trump sucks his own dick.
He's
But
probably too
Hey,
flexible
don't
for
lose
it.
hope,
He could
buddy.
use a hose maybe if he had got a garden hose and put one end over his dick and sucked through the other end. That might work.
I know that the like the Africans had the neck stretching rituals that they would do and stuff. Maybe if he combined that, and I know
If
the
only our culture
Africans,
was so refined.
I
Sorry,
know.
continue.
They seem to have a fascination with stretching things, and they have a dual fascination of as if black cocks couldn't get any bigger. They have a
You already
tradition
have
of
it.
yeah, exactly. They have a tradition of putting weights on their dick to like stretch it out to the floor. And I feel like if Donald Trump took
I knew it
every
wasn't natural.
exactly, if Donald Trump took every day that he was in office from now on and dedicated say 4 hours each day to stretching his neck and stretching his dick, then, well, number one, there would be, and this would be fun too, because there would be like media speculation leading up to it. Like, what's Donald Trump doing? His neck seems to be getting longer. And then one day he's just like, then you'd know.
even then, I feel like I feel like 2 weeks, I'll be like, man, that was crazy. The president sucked his own dick on TV. And then I would just be back to like, oh, gotta go to work tomorrow. You know what I
Exactly,
mean?
yeah. It's just
Yeah.
another fucking day. The Charlie Kirk fervor only ran about like 48 hours.
Well,
The
yeah, there's
internet
like
just
three
kills all
days
the excitement.
at our point in society. There's like 3 days of publicity for anything, no matter how bad it is, and then it's pretty much over.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but Trump, he looks like he's about to die periodically, and people speculate, and then he bounces back up and gives like these marathon interviews where he's clearly fine. And
Okay.
the AI thing, it may have been AI. It might have also been edited, where they caught an edit where his hand was in a
Like a
slightly
swipe
different
edit. Yeah, yeah.
position. And but they probably they obviously have the technology to do AI videos, and they've probably like live tested it for him and for Joe Biden, maybe even Obama. You know, whenever they got it, they probably at least put one ordinary video out just to test it in the real world, because you never know when you need that, and they can't help using their technology.
It's true. DARPA generally has this shit like a year or two before it goes live. You know, they
Yeah, it
usually
could have
know
been there
about
could have
it.
been AI Reagan for all we know. Like they tested out an AI Reagan. We don't know what they have in the secret bunkers underground. Maybe fake name knows.
I'm looking into it. Trust.
It's various iterations of simulations of Donald Trump sucking his own dick, and they're trying to find the right one to
I'm
release
trying
to
to
the
soft
public.
launch it in this podcast.
Exactly. This is actually shit, what do they call that in the movies where it's like a thing
What,
they
when they like
release.
pre-program you for
Yeah,
something
yeah.
that happens with a
Predictive
movie?
programming.
Yeah, there it is.
Yes. Yeah, this podcast is predictive
Yeah, I'm like, haha,
programming
but what if
for
he sucked his dick though?
sucking his own
Like,
dick. Yeah.
like it'll have nothing to do with it. And I'm like, it's interesting what you were saying about Russia maybe orchestrating this assassination. But now just imagine if that barrel of that gun was Donald Trump's penis, and say there was a mouth on the end of it that happened to be his own. And you guys are like, you keep steering this in a very strange direction. We're having actual, theories here. And I'm like, this is just as real as anything else, Bucko.
Well, it's this and The Simpsons. You tune into us, or you watch The Simpsons for your daily dose of predictive programming.
Hello.
That auto fellatio thing on The Simpsons. In a couple weeks.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. They heard it here first. I've been telling The Simpsons everything.
Homer discovers some like special melon or something like that, and some
Hey,
fruit, some.
Marge. This makes me
We're
suck my own
writing for
dick,
them right now.
Marge.
I want royalties.
He becomes the president just because he could do that. Like that's enough to get him elected.
That's a real that's something that could happen in America. I mean,
I
I was
mean,
wondering the other day, you guys know better than me, but I was like, how did Arnold Schwarzenegger get his start in acting or government or politics?
I
I don't
acting.
believe,
Porno.
acting. So like, and the fact that
yeah.
Donald Trump became president, and I mean, he was in business, so that's more akin, I guess. But I was like thinking about like the people popular among Generation Z or like younger millennials right now. And I'm like looking at who could maybe like hold office just based off of influence. And it could be some guy that said the N-word on a video like 10 years ago.
Could have been
Could
Charlie
potentially.
Kirk.
That's true. That's true. I was thinking about that honestly.
Yeah.
Because influence goes a long way. I mean, you see that in dictators in history. Artists can get a long way if they've got the smarts for it.
Like Kanye West, but then he said something a little bit
Oh yeah,
unsavory.
yeah. No, not so much. Yeah,
People
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
like the things that Kanye West had to say after I
I
don't
mean,
But
you
that's
know.
can't
like
talk about the flat Earth and expect the
yeah.
media to go along with you afterwards.
Yeah, no,
All of
I
them are going to come
also
after you.
yeah, no, he also released like he was showing up in like a
I
Klansman
know.
costume. It was so strange.
He's
Like
bipolar. I just try everything he does. I'm just like, okay, I need to remember he's bipolar, right? I don't know.
yeah.
I'm kidding about the flat Earth thing. Obviously, that wouldn't be enough to. Yeah.
Yeah, no. I think Joe Rogan might be flat Earth, but the media listens to him all the time. That's another thing that happened this week that was so that's another thing that happened this week that was so crazy. Um, that Joe Rogan was on this podcast and he was going off about like the vaccine shit. And listen, the whole vaccine debate is that they have a chemical in them, a preservative chemical that is supposed to be a preservative that contains mercury within the chemical, and people claim that the mercury causes autism, and I believe I lend that some credibility. But if you're RFK Jr. and you're, the Secretary of Health and Human Services, then and you've already got the fucking White House fucking with everyone's money. And all you have to say to these fucking pharma companies is, listen, you've got oodles of scientists and you've got oodles of fucking people working constantly. We're going to freeze all federal funding until you can find a fucking preservative chemical for vaccines that doesn't contain mercury in it and that works just as well. I'd fucking guarantee you these money grubbing fucks would find something tomorrow. Tonight. If you released that tonight, they'd find something tonight. They'd be like, "Oh, this works."
Oh
Boom,
yeah,
you're
they do
it's
whatever
done.
he said. They even changed the formula and delivery where it doesn't need a preservative.
Yeah.
They can just bill more for it. Say, okay, well, it costs us more to make it without the. It doesn't have the same shelf life, so it costs more without the preservative, and we're going to charge for it. But does anyone even get vaccines? Like, I don't know about you guys. I had the measles, mumps, and rubella when I was born, and that's all they had in 1980. And I haven't had a vaccine since. Like, do any of you guys like go every year and get vaccines?
I get vaccines by using dirty needles when I shoot heroin, and that's how it trains my immune system to be impervious to HIV and AIDS. So that's my end of the coin.
Per the military, I'm required to get some. I don't know exactly what. I just let them put the needle in my ass in basic. That was one time, and then the other ones, I just get in line and then do what I'm supposed to. But beyond, I never got the COVID one because that there was such an uproar about that it eventually became optional. But yeah, I've for that reason I've gotten some.
Yeah, in the military, sometimes they're going to send you places where there's diseases that you really do not want to get.
Yeah.
And I know there was an issue with COVID in the military, but a friend of mine was in the military in the '60s, and back then, like they could just inject you with anything, and a lot of it
Yeah.
wasn't vaccines; it was like experimental drugs, and so I know
MK
that
Ultra.
now, yeah, now you have the right to like know what it is and refuse it if it's not something like
Yeah, yeah.
necessary.
I think I reserve that right. But because of the culture, I'm not gonna be.
That was
No,
like
Israel
the
Israel was pretty hardcore, and they had a
I
big
don't
fight
think it's
with the
true.
Orthodox over it. The Orthodox didn't want to take it, but
Yeah.
Israel like sacrificed their population. Not only did they try to vaccinate everyone, they turned all the data over to the pharmaceutical companies, and stuff like that leads people to believe that the leaders of Zionism or Israel actually hate the Jewish people. Like there are certain people that believe that the Jewish leaders hate the Jewish people, but they kind of hide behind the Jewish people by saying, well, if you criticize us, then you're anti-Semitic.
Which I do agree with. These things are usually just a few people that chase for power, at any expense. And I
Yeah,
believe
because
that's
other elites, like if you're against the Pope, you're not necessarily anti-Catholic against Catholic people, or if you're against like Rockefeller, you're not anti-Christian or anti-American because you don't like Rockefeller or Bill Gates. It's only the Jewish elites that if you make an argument against them, then it gets twisted around that you're anti-Semitic.
yeah,
I
like if
think
I
that that's
say
pretty common across all cultures. I mean,
Well, even you made the distinction that between anti-Russian and anti-Putin when you made your speech earlier. It originally said anti-Russian, and then you changed it quickly to anti-Putin. So
right. I mean, yeah, it does give something away, I guess. Um, I told you, I've told you, my stance. I think that the Russians are bad business, you know, as a as their culture is currently constituted. I think that they're bad business, but the and it's Putin is a result of it. Putin didn't transfer, didn't translate, the entire Yeltsin Russia into this like himself. And then with I don't know, with the Zionism and the differentiation to be made, uh, there is a lot of you know there is a lot of times where people are like connecting the two. Um, and if you say one thing about one, it's the other, and they are separate entities. They absolutely are separate entities. I don't know if that necessarily translates into why Israel got the vaccine. I think that they believe that it was, I mean, they all took yeah, if you want to look at it this way, they all took the vaccine and they've accomplished more militarily over the last 2 years than anybody we've seen in the last 50 years. When you think about what they've done, with the Lebanon, with the cell phones, and Gaza, and what they did with Iran, and all of this stuff, and Syria. So, I mean, maybe the vaccine was a positive thing for them. I mean, to answer the earlier question, I don't really like taking vaccines. I only take vaccines when I'm forced to. Like basically, when I'm forced to financially, I'll do it. But other than that, I'm not like going to CVS trying to get my flu shot this year. It's not happening. I'll take my chances with some vodka and hot steamy baths, and that'll get me through whatever cold or virus I pick up. I also follow Tyler's method of ensuring that
shooting a little black tar
get
heroin.
dirty needles. I mean, dirty
yeah,
needles,
well,
that's the way to
if you
go.
ride the subway periodically, you'll get stabbed by a crazy homeless person with an AIDS needle.
I mean, I work in the city, so there are plenty of opportunities to get stabbed with filthy needles, and so I try and like I jump at the chance.
I know. So Toilet Jake seems to have joined our conversation, and I'd like him to introduce himself really quickly. We were talking about the RFK vaccine absurdity and how we want Trump to suck his own dick on live television. One thing I want to hear your take on is Trump having
Yeah.
some see he seems to be having some strokes as of recent.
You mean Jake? You keep slipping up
Yeah.
names.
You were the one stroking in the braille room.
Yeah, I know.
He's got the droopy face. He's got the droopy face going on with it. And God only knows where he disappeared for a few days. And he's not telling us, and he doesn't return my calls. Um,
I know.
it is what it is. No, I got to tell you, Tyler, you had mentioned earlier Tim Dillon podcast thing.
Mhm.
Did you see the one with him and Max Blumenthal?
Yes, I did
That was the one
today.
I was just watching. That blew me away.
Hmm.
Tim Dillon's become a serious human being, and Max Blumenthal is Max Blumenthal, and he was coming up with like more reasons for me to lament Charlie Kirk. Like
Yeah.
Charlie was going to join the side of the light and become a pro-Palestinian person. But it's just like, okay, who is this patsy that took a shot at him that really hit the right spot? You know?
Yeah.
I mean, I
Yeah.
guess you chewed this one up already, right?
Yeah, Tyler Robinson, but I mean it's
I
still
can see. My eyes are just
it's
a mess right now.
that's fair. I think it looks like you're like rolling into a rock concert with those sunglasses on.
You see that's why Roy Orbison wore glasses because if he took them off, he looked like your grandmother.
But yeah, I think it was a total patsy. I think he was murdered, and I think that Charlie Kirk had such a massive base of people. Uh, and if they had all turned against Israel, it would have been bad news for Israel because they need the American support. They need
You see,
American
that's what
support.
Max was saying. It's just like basically they wanted to offer him tons and tons of gobsacks of money just to turn the Turning Point kids into pro-Israeli, typical kids from every other era,
Yeah, but
And
then
right
where does it
now, what
end?
I've heard that like the youth of the Republican Party are now 24% in favor of Israel, which is an historic low.
Let's hit for 20. Let's hit for 15. The fucking it's getting ridiculous. Like
Let's go.
Oh, there you are. Okay, now I can see everybody. I see fake name. I see Tyler. Hello, iPhone SE second generation.
Yeah, I
and
don't
he's the nutty
And
professor.
and
identify.
this,
So much for not
sure it's
identifying ourselves. We're putting all
exactly.
the information out there.
Yeah.
And my
Kelly
social
can't
security
wait.
I'll just
number
say our
is.
social security numbers real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Well,
I
maybe
okay.
they'll let you chime into the show from El Salvador when you're in one of those prisons, on
Oh
your way.
yeah. We'll get scooped up. Where the Trump understands that if he steps out of line, there's gonna be an unsavory video of him. Even Medvedev knew about
You
them.
see, you see, that's what makes more sense to me today. Is like I heard the thing yesterday where he was talking to the governor of Utah, and this made the news. And he used stats saying, the president's a really tough job. 18% of them have died in office or been shot. And he's like, she's telling the governor, he's like, you and me, we have to be really worried because in this political game, we can get killed. So it's like the fear of God between Luigi and Charlie Kirk. I mean, Trump is running scared right now.
And
Yeah.
and we were talking about how it was absolutely true. We were talking about how it's like potentially a message, and we were running through, all the
Thirty
all
on
the
six is a real message. Yeah.
and all the suspects,
Yeah.
including the Russians and neocons, possibly the left.
Well, the Russians was kind of a joke, I think. Russia, everything's going perfect for those guys. They just
I
have
don't think so. I
to
think
touch,
they're
and um, they're winning the war. They're moving slow.
They just
They're
got another oil refinery bombed 2 hours ago.
they,
They have
they
gas
Oh, really?
shortages.
a massive country. They
Oh,
have
wait. In Russia,
refineries.
the
Russian.
Ukrainians did a drone strike
Yeah, yeah.
on a Russian refinery or
Another one. Yeah, like a couple of
another
hours
one?
ago.
They're going to start
Yeah.
running out of refineries soon enough.
There have been
Not
gas
any.
lines, like long gas station lines, people withdrawing money like in huge amounts from the banks. It's not going well in Russia.
And also bear in mind, over in Europe, they lost all that cheap gas. I mean, German output has like gone down a lot. And like they were the powerhouse of like all manufacturing just a few years before this Ukraine war. And now they're being forced to buy, LNG coming from the United States,
At a
which
higher
costs more
price,
for
the
shipping.
liquefied. Yeah,
Exactly. And this
yeah.
works to our advantage. We're selling them at a higher price. But when is the lapdog going to finally wake up and say enough is enough? You know, I don't think Europe has the intestinal fortitude to actually stand up to the American military machine. You know, What do they think that he will join Russia to fight against them or something? I mean, there is a chance for them to step aside and actually grow a backbone, you know? How much of this shit can they take watching this guy mess with their economies, you know?
Yeah, but Europe
That's the
has
part
no
that I don't get.
militaries anymore. The United States has been running their security for so long that really all they can do is whatever
Hmm.
America tells them to do and be a lapdog. They're basically colonies. In after World War
Yeah,
II, we split up Europe. The Soviet Union took half, and we took half, and they've basically been colonies ever since. And now they're in a total panic because they feel like Donald Trump is just going to cut them loose on their own, and they can't really do much of anything on their own.
honestly, I'm one of those people. I've been called a Larouchian because I believe that NATO served its purpose and it should have died with the Soviet Union,
I
you
agree.
know? But that's considered an out there thought. You're a LaRouche. What's wrong with you? And it's just, I think the past couple of days with, look, Charlie Kirk is dead. It's a terrible thing. I feel for his family. And I know there's a lot of people that loved him. He was a toxic figure on his side. He was a tool of the oligarchs. I mean, Foster Freeze staked him. I went through his financials today. I mean, he was up to 90 million a year in donations, and this is all dark money, you know. And I was looking through like his 990 forms, like schedules A through K, and it was just like all these different LLCs from around the country that were donating money for the education of students and whatever. Where is this money coming from, and what is the price they're paying? And according to Max Blumenthal, a lot of this money is coming from basic neoliberal, neocon, and pro-Israeli groups that want him to do their message. And so what are they going to do with this turning point thing now? They're just going to let it disappear because I mean the guy was when you look at the money here there, right? They're always spending 84 million to 90 million in revenue along those lines going back for the past 10 years. And it's been growing since it started out in 2012 or 13 at $50,000, the initial stake. So like did Charlie get taken out by some plot? We've got one kid in Utah. Now, is he a patsy? What do you think? You know? I mean, how many of these assassination things do we go through until we get to the point where it's like, actually somebody has agency to go shoot somebody just because they feel like it, Was there a big plot behind shooting Charlie? And if it was, it gives you an idea of the fracture in the MAGA movement right now. I mean, you got people that are like they all want to be the next Trump, is what I'm saying. If we're saying that MAGA took him out.
But nobody can match that Riz.
I know I'm all over the map there with that statement, so don't mind that.
Nobody can match the Trump Riz. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say, so are we pretty much all under the impression that it was orchestrated by some kind of entity like Israel or Russia, or like what are like he was just saying, there seems to be so much real civil unrest. I mean, not to the point that you go outside and you feel it so much, but to me it seems like I wouldn't be surprised if this was real. Somebody just because we've talked about where I've been like when I hear about an assassination, I'm like, or an attempt or something, whether it's the Black Rat guy, the 33rd floor, or it's Luigi,
Oh,
whatever.
that one.
Like when I hear about things like that, like we talk about things, not saying like anybody should be killed. I'm just saying like I'm surprised there aren't more people, knowing that there are 300 something million Americans, that would be so angry that they would take up arms and do this. So it gets to a point where I'm like, there are problems, and I'm sure there are people that recognize and think, idiots, of course, that are like, I think I could take this into my hands and do this. So, we have these theories about Israel or Russia, whatever, or somebody on the right, somebody further right, say like a Groiper, like with the Nick Fuentes guys, which
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that, but also wouldn't be surprised if it really was just, I mean, I would be a little bit surprised considering from everything we've seen, like footage, it does look like seem pretty professional. You know, an egress route, just things were whatever. It seems orchestrated to me, but I also wouldn't be
Shot to the neck was
surprised.
perfect.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if things like this were happening a lot, like in like really just some disgruntled liberal versus conservative thing. And maybe I'm retarded. Maybe that many with that many people, that ratio of like psychopaths who end up going out and trying to kill somebody is smaller than I think. But it are
Can
like,
I chime in on that?
yeah, go for it.
Okay, here's my thing. It's just that the Trump administration thrives on chaos and diversion and division. You know, they want to keep us at each other's throats. While, I mean, from what I read today, according to one report, 50% of the 2025 project has been completed so far. That's light speed. You want to talk about an Operation Warp Speed, a 900-page document, and 50% of their goals have been implemented in 8 months, which is amazing. Now, the thing is just that Israel has been going batshit, attacking everyone left and rightly. And if they saw Charlie Kirk as a threat, this just makes the entire set more crazy. It's like you take the bottle of ants, you throw in some beetles, and then you shake it up, and then you watch them go at each other, kind of thing. Now, that's one idea, but I'm also of the opinion sometimes that sometimes a duck is a duck, and this kid was just motivated to go shoot Charlie Kirk because out of Charlie Kirk's tour, Utah turns out to be the only place where they actually let you know ahead of time where he's going to be speaking. So this guy had the time and the ability and the weapons to do it. And then he contacted a friend of his via social media who's turning information on him right now as we speak, and his father who turned him in as well. He could be a lone assassin. But is there somebody behind the scenes that we are unaware of who motivated him to do this? And
Yeah.
that's where,
That seems more likely a mix of the two things, because there are so many parties that would want that to happen for some kind of gain.
And
And
look, another
there are
unfortunately,
surveillance
people.
their hand.
yeah, it's easy to activate somebody.
Yeah.
We won't get into the details of that, but you can activate somebody, and all of a sudden they're just like somebody else, and they're doing your bidding.
Yeah, I agree with that. The original MK Ultra was like just grabbing people random people off the street, but we have people who are already on the edge. And why, if you're trying to make a chair, why go into the forest and grab a tree when you have things that are already almost a chair that you could
Hey,
do? So,
without
you
without MK
you push them
without
up.
MK Ultra, would we have had a Ted Kaczynski?
Yeah,
They gave him the acid.
and then also I think you owe it to yourself to assume everything's a conspiracy and then try and disprove it, or assume that everything is some sort of foul play. There was a great TV show called Quincy that
Oh
was,
yeah, Jack
yeah,
Klugman.
the late 1970s. Jack Klugman, he was the guy who played in the TV show The Odd Couple. He played
Yeah, punk rock is going to kill us all.
yeah, so his it was based on a true story of Los Angeles. You had these lazy ass cops. So there's no conspiracy, just lazy ass cops who they didn't want to do a lot of paperwork. They didn't want to do a
Mm-hmm.
lot of work of any kind, and they'd find something that looked like a suicide or an accident, and they just say, "Oh yeah, that was he died of an accident. He died of a suicide." And Quincy, the character in real life and in the TV show, he said, no, this was a murder. And much to the police were always angry with him then because he declared it a murder. He was a medical examiner. So they'd declare it a murder, and then he'd say, no, this is homicide. And it would force them to investigate. And a lot of times in the show, he did a lot of the investigating himself, too, because it was TV.
Well,
But
don't forget Sam. Sam played a role too.
oh yeah, the Japanese guy, the real
Yeah.
Quincy in real life was an Asian American, but I
Mm-hmm.
guess in the late 1970s that wouldn't have like had popular appeal to have a main character
It's
who's
like God forbid Kung Fu would have a Chinese guy playing the character.
Yeah, so the real the Japanese guy in Quincy, he was probably like an homage to the real Quincy from real life.
So another thing that happened, and the final thing that I wanted to touch on, this week's events was we've had a very eventful week. Some guy got fucking grilled. Uh, Trump seemingly looks like he's dying on national television.
He's
And
fine.
uh,
He
this
stroked
is,
out. You can stroke out and last a long time. Trust me.
yeah, that's
He's got the
true.
best doctors, and you get the right medicine at the right moment. It's rather survivable.
Yeah,
And then there's outcomes.
yeah, like I
Yeah.
said earlier, he keeps looking like grim death, and then he comes back and he does these marathon interviews and stuff. I think he's on Adderall sometimes, but
Yeah, it's the drugs. It's the
drugs,
drugs.
and then he's tired at sometimes, and who knows, maybe he has like Tucker Carlson's nicotine pouches in his
Yeah,
mouth.
I know.
I
I
think
Hey,
he
I have
said,
Tucker Carlson's nicotine pouch in my mouth right now. Not because of Tucker Carlson, because a coworker offered me pouches. Usually
Ah,
use Zins, but it happened to be the
word to the
ones.
wise,
But
they'll fuck up your gums long term.
yeah, I've read about it.
So probably some Alex Jones supplements, they're always selling supplements.
What does he call it? Alpha
well,
Brain? What are the names of
I
his
think it's Alpha
supplements?
Brain.
Zyklon B.
Yeah.
This is
I could
Zyklon
probably make
B.
up Alex Jones names for supplements. If there's a job for that, I could be the guy.
Mega
Gay
dick.
frog
Oh man,
supplements. I don't know.
I so wish he was really Bill Hicks, but it ain't gonna happen.
well, the Swedes have been making these pouches for 250 years, so there
Yeah,
is
no, they do have great quality control. You're right.
it will screw up your gums. But one thing about Tucker, and it's not, I'm not saying it because I'm a fan of Tucker. I think he uses quality ingredients because he uses it himself. And I think a lot of liberal people have done the same thing, like Paul Newman with his salad
Hmm.
dressings and Ben and Jerry. So it's not even a political thing. I think it's mostly liberals who have made products who like try and make them a little bit better for people. And I think Tucker might be trying to do the same. I mean, unless you trust Philip Morris more than you or R.J. Reynolds more than Tucker.
You guys see that Ted
I don't
Cruz,
know.
Tucker Carlson video when the Iran thing was going on?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And Ted Cruz basically it came down
Very
to,
small
well,
piece.
why should we support Israel? And he said, because the Bible says, he said, because I'm a Christian, the Bible says, what's that verse about? If you
Like we
bless
must
Israel.
defend Israel. Yeah, blessed
Oh
are
Yeah.
the people of
God.
Israel.
Yeah, but I gotta say, Tucker Carlson was completely right in that interview, in my eyes, except he was being really snarky, and it made me think, like, man, he can be really, like, kind of feminine in the way that he talks
It
to
was
other
all those
people. Like,
years with the bow tie tied too tight around his neck. It cut off the oxygen to his brain. You know.
yeah.
Too much exposure to Alan Colmes, maybe.
Oh, do not mock the name of Alan Combs.
I like Alan Colmes. I'm
I
just
love
saying.
that. I was a chronic caller on his radio show to his dying day. I knew he was dying for like a month or two before he did, but I never brought it up with them, and they didn't want to bring it up. So gentleman's agreement kind of thing. I
Wasn't
miss
it?
Alan. I love that man. I really did.
Wasn't it originally Hannity and Combs?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
Alan did stand up, and then he was on NBC Radio, and he was on what's the other one? There's a 65 at the end of the dial, MAL or whatever. He did a bunch of radio before he came in, and they were a good pair. I mean, it's just like they were like the premier show when they came up in '96.
Holmes is like he was the token liberal on Fox News.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's
He was
basic.
right.
But no, his points were good. The show was great. I remember
He
watching
was
the show.
sincere. He was sincere. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was really into his radio show. He did this thing, Radio Graffiti, where everyone gets one line, and it was just wild sometimes. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
see, this is our power over Gen Z. We can make them shut the fuck up by talking about stuff that happened when they were born. Like I
I
Yeah,
remember
probably
what the
should
hell
shut
are
up
you
anyway.
talking?
I remember pointing my antenna at the Empire State Building,
Yeah.
motherfuckers.
No, look at it this way, man. I was born in '64, so I mean, you have more information for whoever. So my relative, I mean, 19 years to the day to the end of the war, in 1945, you know, and there's a whole generation that's come up in this post 9/11 nonsense, and also in a world we really don't understand, where like they've been forced into solitude kind of thing, even worse than before. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that do a lot of group sports and shit like that, but there's a lot of people that they seem to have turned inside with the machine and they don't go out. And that's their, we're not going to talk on the phone. We're just going to text. And God forbid you leave me a voicemail, I'm going to have a meltdown.
Do you know what the Gen Z stare is? It kind of embodies that whole thing. There's a
Yeah.
there's a trend called the Gen Z stare, and it
Yeah.
started
Oh,
with
yeah.
you like walk into like any place where there's gonna be like some sort of customer service or somebody serving you who is of the age of like a late teenager, early 20s, and they just kind of stare at you, and you say something like, "Hey, how's your day going?" And they just kind of stare at you blankly, and the theory is that like the under socialization that came from like COVID or just having electronics from such a young age and everything
Yeah.
being
That's
sort
it.
of parasocial, it's taken its effect in weird ways. And I'm older Gen Z, but I definitely notice it, especially with like teenagers working in fast food places. I'm like, hey, how's your day going? They just kind of they're like, is this really happening to me? Somebody's speaking to me. It's like a blank, like 2 second
It's because
stare.
there's another thing where it's just like, you're just a cog and people look through you, they don't see you,
Yeah,
and you're doing the job, and it's just like, you could be in your own head and it's just like, okay, yeah, my body's here and I got to do this thing.
that's
So
true. That's
I
true.
try to not get tied up with people being asocial, because people are just, you're coming from where you're coming from, and that person could have just, their mother could have just died for all you know.
That is very true.
In a way, I admire it. I'm Gen X, but like,
I,
I admire it. I wish I could have done it as a teenager, just like stare at people. Like, it's a lot of pressure to have to like. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of effort, and it's an honesty. Maybe it's like I'm not gonna like bullshit you or pretend that I care about you or pretend that I think you care about me, and I'm just gonna stare at you. And I admire it in a lot of ways. I
oh,
mean.
it's actually a German cultural thing. They will just, they when you're in Germany, people are more open to staring at people
Mm.
as a general thing. It's not meant to be rude. It's just the way they are.
Yeah, well, I'm born 1980, but I kind of went back where I feel like I'm 1,000 years old now. Uh, like I can get way more mad at Woodrow Wilson than I could get at any.
I understand
Like,
that.
and so, like, I'm totally safe from. I'm not going to assassinate anyone. I mean, there's no law against assassinating Wilson.
You're allowed to dream,
You've
you
heard it
know.
here first.
I have one foot in the boomer and one foot in the X. Dad got shot in the war, so I count.
But also with technology, I lived in New York City my whole life, and I came
Yeah,
down
same here. I'm from Brooklyn. Where are you from?
Queens, Maspeth, which is right on
Oh,
the.
you're on the flip side.
Yeah, so the last few years I've been going back and forth to Florida, and
Uh-huh.
when I got to Florida, like I know my way around New York like you wouldn't believe. I could be a cab driver. And when I got to Florida, even a year later, I didn't know how to get anywhere. I was like functionally retarded. And I
That's like
realized
me in Staten Island.
it was because of the GPS, because I was
Yeah.
using the GPS to go everywhere because I didn't know. And it prevents you from learning that skill. And I found the same thing with like YouTube videos and stuff like that. Like I remember the world where if your car was broken and you didn't know how to fix it, you went and found somebody and asked them for advice, and then you had to remember that advice.
I feel like the heaviness on the neuroplasticity now when you learn something like a route isn't there. They did a study with AI now where they tested students who used AI and students who didn't, or people who used it and didn't. And some of the like the brain pathways, I don't know what to call them, but the brains were physically different. Like
The synaptic
they'd
pathways.
yeah,
Shout
they
out
stayed
for
like sharp for people who didn't use AI, and the people who did, it kind of like degraded, and they weren't
you
able
know
to go ahead.
Yeah,
the AI thing.
oh,
I'm
sorry.
sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just briefly, I was going to say, like, you used to have to carry all your important knowledge in your head, and now you carry everything in a computer in your pocket, and so you don't
Yeah.
have to keep anything in your head. You can just go back to that computer and find it again.
Outsource it to the machine.
8 feet away from me, I have an old ammo case for 50 caliber belt ammo, and it's filled with all my maps from when I traveled America. I mean, I AAA, so I get triptychs for everywhere. So I saved every map on Earth that I got, and it's my favorite way to look at doing it because once people started using those devices, it's just like we'd be missing turns and shit like that. Just like because, and also the thing is, I'm talking like my friend 25 years ago when he had like this little Mark and Garmin, whatever kind of machine, on his
Mm.
dash. And it was always calling out like a block later, a turn like 50 feet later. I was like, don't turn now. No, no, no.
Mhm.
But anyway, yeah,
Yeah, those
trust
early machines, I remember those. And then
it was
before that,
slow.
there was a middle time where you had, a stack of paper that you printed out from MapQuest, and you were
Yeah.
driving in unknown territory, turning your head, looking at directions while you were driving. And that kind of began the process of like making people reliant. I remember taking trips when I first started driving. I remember taking trips based on like looking at the map in the morning and like planning out my route and then just remembering it and
Yep.
looking at the map as reference if necessary.
Well, fun story. Me were coming back from Ohio in my Lincoln Town car in
Yeah.
2001 or 2002. And we met some Arabs in New Jersey who were asking for directions to the airport. And I unfolded my map on the hood of the car. And it was me and a group of Arabs looking at this map on the hood of the town car. And then they left, and we left, and
They're trying
I
to find
eventually
downtown New York,
got pulled over by the
2001.
cops.
And I think it's like Rhode Island or some other like Northeast, like some New England state. People that live there love to give people bad information when they ask directions. And it's
Definitely
surveys.
Northeast.
Like, New Yorkers love giving advice. Yeah, go that way.
Yeah, gave him a trip, yeah, to the airport.
Oh, so yeah,
Yeah, no, there are a lot of people who do that in Europe as well. I've heard stories of people who do that as a prank. Troll people and give them bad directions.
Yeah, well, that's how it used. My grandfather said that's how it used to be. The minute you got out of New York City, when he was young, everyone was hillbillies, and they wouldn't give
that's
you the
Mountain
time.
Williams to you.
Yeah, they wouldn't give you the time of day. They wouldn't give you directions anywhere. So you had to have a map on you, and you had to have like he carried everything you could possibly need in the trunk of his car, like for emergency stuff, spare parts, and everything.
Duct
Right.
tape, a shotgun,
A shot, yeah, a
shells,
shovel.
whiskey.
Lots of whiskey, you know. So I think, it definitely has changed. Our brains are definitely changed as a result of computers. There's
Oh,
no doubt about it.
Jesus. I have
Um,
burnt. I have like ruts in my brain from the stuff that you just do repeatedly, and you just keep going to the same source all the time, et cetera, et cetera. If you understand me.
and so it's great in a way because like in the 90s, if you would have told me I could listen to like whatever song I want whenever I want, that's amazing. I could watch whatever movie or TV show I want whenever I want. And there's a lot of great stuff to it, and then there's a lot of bad stuff to it. The expectations, you could do more now, so we're just going to ask you to be 110%, and now that means you can do the physical stuff and the digital stuff at the same time, and that's why we're all so stressed out and whatever. But there's negative. It's also unfortunately been used to spread politics which is a direct cause of what we're seeing, with
Oh,
the
well, that's a whole other thing, though. No,
yeah.
that's a different scenario. Politics basically comes down to the people with the money decided like 50 years ago with the Powell memo, it was time to destroy the middle class, put us in our place, and make sure we never rose up again. The civil rights, the anti-war, the women, all those movements. This we're looking at the fruition of their 50-year dream. It's their wet dream finally come true politically, because the way it is right now, they have no problem with just ignoring everything about what is the law, what is procedure, what is process, and what is constitutional at every level, because they just happen to get 1.5% across the board. And then they also happen to get so many houses in Jerry. I mean, and the Democratic Party is shit. I mean, who wants to vote for them? You know,
They
it's a
didn't
tough call.
distinguish themselves in 24, that's for sure.
Oh God, yeah, Genocide Joe. That was the distinction in
Yeah.
24. Genocide Joe, and this woman who had zero charisma, not
Yeah,
being able
negative
to even.
charisma. Negative.
Yeah, she's in D&D levels.
Yeah, it brings up, on that point, we've crossed a threshold over the last few years. I like to bring up, I'm a music guy. I like to bring up the Beatles.
Yeah,
Strawberry
love
Fields, when they were working on Strawberry Fields, Lennon decided, because the multiple tracks, they weren't getting a full, recording done that was suitable. So he decided to just patch, the first half of one track to the second half that was recorded another track because he just couldn't get it right and he was whatever lazy, drugged out,
them.
whatever it was. He decided to
That living is easy where eyes close.
yeah, yeah, yeah. You see,
What's the
you know what I'm
junction there?
saying? It switches, and you can tell where they
Hmm.
switched. And Paul McCartney was going crazy over
Hmm.
that because he's like, "You can't do that. That violates all the things that we hold sacred as musicians." And it did. And I think that our leaders have gotten to the point where they crossed a threshold where it no longer has to make sense to us. They're just going to be like, listen, they'll either understand or they don't. We're going to run with this. And they've
No,
gotten,
you've got you've got like 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 a super pressure hose of bullshit being blasted at you constantly, where one outrage after another, you can't keep up, and you don't have time to get your feet in the ground and be resentful about it and act
and
about it.
it doesn't make sense. And you don't get to even question why it doesn't make sense. And you don't get to fully flesh out within yourself why it doesn't make sense. They just
And the
run with
worst
it.
part is the reality distortion field that makes you think you're crazy.
Yes,
They're right and you're
gaslighting.
wrong.
So
Yes.
our
Yeah.
our leaders have gone from like trying to convince us that you get cancer if you don't put the toilet seat down with fake silence, and now they've just
Oh,
gone
these
with like,
low flow showers, and these toilets. I got to flush them 5 times
yeah,
to like get rid of my
I gotta
documents.
think that's
You know.
that shit's funny when they make these things up. You know what I mean? Like they got to be laughing about that, and then
They
like
have no imagination. They have no respect for us. They used to lie with us at least with a
exactly,
straight face. But
exactly.
I'm
They have
sorry, fake name. I want to hear you talk more.
yeah, me
no,
too.
that
Sorry.
was pretty much it. It's just like, I mean, when you get like really deep into conspiracies, there's this idea that they will like do things with numbers to like be extra on the nose because there's something about also
Lies.
being blatant about their message that is like uh
Like
I don't know,
funny to
they
people who
have like
have all the
a
power.
they have like a compulsion to also be like, by the way, this is what we're doing, to be like in your face about it, but still like if you point it out, it's insane, you know. So it's like so they can laugh at you more. I don't know. There's a theory I heard
They're
on
not.
it that it says in some sacred book, some text that you have to tell what you're doing. You can't lie about it. You have to tell what you're doing when you do something other and that way you won't like face damnation or something. I don't even I don't know if anybody
Damnation
knows
is
what
the
I'm
furthest
talking
thing
about or
from
what
their
I'm referring
minds.
to.
No, I
But
agree 100%. Like during COVID, they told you follow the science, trust the science, while all the science they put out was fake. So they were able to signal two opposite things
Shh,
at
you're
the
not supposed to notice that.
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
like, if you were awake and aware and smart, you would say, "Okay, I'm going to follow the science and not listen to these guys." But if you were kind of compliant and subservient, you would
Okay.
say, "Oh, they are the science. I'm going to follow the science." And I do believe that it seems like there's a deal between God and the devil that the devil always has to tell you what he's doing and give
Yeah.
you a chance. Otherwise, it doesn't count.
Passive complaint. What is it? Passive consent. Passive consent.
Yeah, basically. But the
Yeah.
thing is, I was brought up on the X-Files, and I want to believe. So you know what? During COVID, I wanted to believe the bullshit they were telling me. But I knew what was going on. I got to be honest with you. My neighborhood, the hospital near me, and a couple of locations around me, we had huge refrigerator trucks with dead bodies. Okay, it was real. It happened. A lot of people died. And when I caught it, the thing that freaked me out was like it wasn't as bad as a real flu I had the year before, unless that was COVID and I didn't know it. But you know, you lose the. Did anyone have it and lose their sense of smell and taste?
No,
Thankfully, I didn't, but I've heard a lot of people did.
It
I
reset my
never had
palate.
those symptoms. I got it in Christmas 2019. I was at Cornell Hospital, and
Holy shit! You're one of the early ones. You're like the people in Washington State.
yeah, before it was even
You
a
brought
thing.
it over.
And the doctor I
Yeah,
was
patient
seeing the
zero.
next day, she was out with the flu, and then I had it. And luckily, I didn't know it was COVID. I didn't know anything
Hmm.
about COVID, so I was doing my thing where I'm just under the blankets, and my temperature went up to 103.2 at the highest.
I
And
hear you.
I would have been shitting my pants that I'm going to die, but I was just insistent. No, I'm not going to take fever reducers. I'm going to sweat it out. I'm going to lay under these
That's
blankets.
all you can do. Yeah, you
Yeah,
just got to let it ride.
I was better.
And
It
chicken
was
soup.
24 hours of hell, but I was better the next day. And I was weak as a kitten, but I felt great. And I never got those long COVID symptoms, though.
No, when I got COVID in April of 21, right? I had the flu in February of 20, and that one really motherfucking killed me. That was like the same as you were just explaining. But for me, it was like 4 days of the super hot. But then the next year when I got COVID, it was a breeze. And I had it's a really funny thing. I got the shot the week before, and I developed. I thought it was like, oh, these are side effects I'm feeling from the shot. And it turned out I already had COVID before I got the shot. It was like 5 days before. And my doctor thought that perhaps it gave me a little bit of help as a boost to make it lighter and easier. Like good timing with the shot. But I thought the COVID was easy to get through. But it was just like a week or two later when my sense of taste and smell disappeared. That blew me away. And I was like, that's the one that makes you go, this seems pretty much like somebody designed this.
Yeah, like novel disease, definitely.
I think
Yeah, well,
it wasn't the severity of it. I think it's. I think it does exist. I think it was real. I don't think it
Yeah,
justified everything that was done to try and stop it.
yeah.
But I think it was real. I think it's the kind of illness that isn't necessarily severe by nature. It scans it's creepy because I got it twice and it scans your body and it
Hmm.
looks for weaknesses and it
Hmm.
exploits those weaknesses. So if your weaknesses happen to be, something with your heart or like you already have lung problems or diabetes or
Hmm.
whatever, it's gonna fuck you up. And if you happen to be in somewhat decent shape, it'll probably just like, inconvenience you a little bit. Um, Maybe the first couple of days it'll make you feel like shit, but like, and nothing horrible. So, but it's creepy. It does appear to like come. I've met people, and this is unverified. I've met people who got COVID and wound up with bad backs
Oh
afterwards.
wow.
And it's strange, but like it's just almost like it hunts down. It's like a full scan, and it's like, there it is, kidneys or
well, well,
back.
I think that was actually more the vaccine, which kind of creates inflammation all over the place, and that inflammation is most noted in wherever you have a weakness. A lot of people after the vaccine got autoimmune and inflammation issues, and so I attribute that more to the vaccine than to COVID, like getting back pain or testicle problems or stuff like that. It went to the weak.
But the thing is, I already had cancer and I already had Graves' disease before I had COVID, so it's no big deal. I don't blame them for that. I don't blame vaccines for it. But I've gotten the vaccines like all the time because I'm in the high risk, you know, and they haven't bothered me. And I really think I haven't contracted a, like, I mean, you get like a normal sniffle or some kind of shit, but I haven't gotten a COVID or a flu since. And
In
I
in the
really, go
Yeah,
ahead.
no, I'm sorry to interrupt. I thought, in the end, I think my assessment of it is vaccines didn't amount to shit. Like, basically, it didn't really do anything. It probably didn't protect anybody. It probably didn't hurt many people. It might have hurt some. And it was more about the social war that it created and the
Hmm.
ramifications socially
No, it
because
was
it's all
already
about
there.
the
It was
mission.
exploited, actually.
Yeah.
That was ongoing for a long time. That was just a chance to exploit it to the nth degree politically for the right, and they were quite successful at it because people are suspicious of government to begin with for good reason. But it's just that what bothers me is the blowback going to, okay, now I'm not going to vaccinate my kids, and you got measles outbreaks and yada 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 yada.
Mm.
Hi, can we have polio back?
Let's get some
It's kind of,
smallpox going, let's get
yeah.
it all back.
I think
Golden oldies.
We got to get Joe Rogan on this call. He's the expert. If there were anyone to trust with
He's
information
gonna call
regarding
him Jamie.
vaccines, exactly. Jamie, pull that shit up. No, that's a
something
video of Vladimir Putin sucking his own dick. No,
Oh,
Jamie, the
we're
other
back to
thing.
that. Is
Jamie,
he
pull
on a
that up.
bear when he's doing it?
Hmm.
Yeah.
He's
something
riding a bear.
something interesting that happened is early on in COVID, there was a doctor who made his own vaccine and he got
Hmm.
arrested. And I said, just like the media was saying, oh my God, that's crazy. Some crazy guy making his own vaccine. And then about a month later, there was another guy arrested for making his own vaccine. And I said, two crazy guys. And I looked into it a little bit. And apparently, what these guys were doing, they were making conventional vaccines where you grow it in an unfertilized chicken egg, and
They
you
were going past door.
yeah, you take a sample from some of the disease from somebody
All
who's
power
sick.
to you.
You make you
That's a
grow it
good
in a
garage
chicken egg,
activity.
and then you irradiate it in something like a microwave to kill the disease, and then you inject the dead material into yourself. And
Hmm.
your immune system sees that dead material, doesn't realize it's dead, and attacks it and creates the antibodies to attack it. So it actually wasn't insane to make your own vaccine for the disease.
Well,
But
Washington's army were vaccinated for I forget what they had, but at the time it was the one where they just cut you and they put it on you, the pox or something.
Uh-huh.
They cut you open and just rub it into the wound, and then you get immunized by that. It's just like, look, here's the thing. It's like for me, it's just another distraction. If you want it, take it. And are these companies reputable? Are there issues? Any human being is going to have their own reaction to it. That's the way it is. Some people are going to have a really bad outcome, but the majority are going to have a good outcome. And if we're going to trust the science, we trust the science. And COVID was then. Let's keep moving along. I'm just sorry about how it's turning into the children issue, as I said before.
It might actually come back. It wouldn't surprise me if we wind up back in a situation in late 2025, early 2026,
There's an
where,
outbreak in California right now. They've been doing they do water samples from the sewage treatment, and also that, like how many people end up in the hospital, and the numbers
right.
were ticking up a week ago.
Yeah,
But it's
and
also statistically small.
yeah, no, it's statistically small. Every time you roll the dice, and
Mhm.
a new strain is created by
Oh
whatever
God,
forces.
that's the thing. Yeah, it does. That's a tricky little fucker. That's why I
Yeah.
get the fucking shots.
you can't let us old folks take over your podcast. You need to be strong like Hitler, like young Hitler. You
Get
gotta,
off my
gotta
lawn, you
be
little fuck!
I think what you guys have been talking about is really enlightening and
Yeah, but you got to
good
jump
to
in and
talk
direct
about.
things and start ordering people around. Like, what do
Now,
you
should
think?
he be Johnny Carson or Ed McMahon? What do you
Well, what
think?
about the last thing I wanted to
You
talk
got to be
about,
John McLaughlin.
because we only have
Yeah, the
Morton.
McLaughlin group was great. I love the
we
McLaughlin group.
we only
Oh
have 8 minutes
Christ!
left on the call. One last
Back
thing
when
I
Pat
wanted to touch
Buchanan was a
on.
fun guy to watch.
Yeah, no. They had
One
the
Look,
blonde
Tyler, you
conservative
tried to
woman. What
do
was
it.
her name?
Oh God, yeah, Doris Kearns or whatever her name is.
Yeah, no, they were
One
great.
last one last thing I wanted to touch on is the House releasing the Epstein 50th birthday book
And the
as
British
a
guy,
send
the
off.
British Prime Minister, I'm sorry to cut you off, but you can go take that and run with it. The British Prime Minister firing someone, the U.S. ambassador, for his ties to Epstein. So
Oh
that,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
and we've got
You know,
seven
look, these are
minutes left.
sacrificial lambs. They just wanted to. They needed an excuse to get rid of the guy, and they needed a sacrificial lamb. His name came up. Hey, it was his turn. That's okay.
Yeah.
He's got an estate somewhere. He might be a lord or a sir. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. But it's interesting to see all these names on the files and the fact that it extends beyond party lines. I think where Trump fucked up is that when he was running, he tried to parlay it into well, we're gonna go after Clinton. Clinton's all over the Epstein files. He's gonna have a bad time when it comes to the files, and maybe he will, and maybe George W. Bush will, and maybe he will. Trump himself. So I don't know. That was a dangerous game to be playing, and these files are all over, and there's some unsavory shit regarding Trump in there, the
and
depreciated woman, and the the birthday letter from Trump, and several other things. Alan
well, it
Dershowitz.
it ties back to it ties back
Oh,
to the beginning. What I was saying when we were talking about the assassination, it ties back to that. You think you're protected when you're bold enough to like make it an issue in in a presidential campaign. It tells me that you feel, even if you did have involvement in it, that you feel protected, that the powers that be won't let you sink with it, and it's the same as, it's the powers that be that sink you. So it's the powers that be that I believe uh, organized the assassination of Charlie Kirk as a message to Trump. But it's also them who can say, you know what, you're not gonna follow the party line. You're not gonna, be loyal to the mission. We'll expose you Epstein wise as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's treacherous times. You sow the wind, you reap the whirlwind. And you know what? That's what the administration's all about. They want fucking shit. He's got these people that are all garbage cabinet people that lick his taint, and give me a break. It's just like it's he's like making fun of the system. And if I wanted to look at him as performance art, that's the only way to get along with him. But it's just like this is real life, and it's fucked up. And we are an occupied country where we're letting. I mean, the war in Gaza is not on the table here, but it always is. And that's my problem with this shit. Just like he's the man who could snap his fingers. Because believe me, the U.S. president has the ability to make that phone call and stop a war. It's been done many times before. And
Mm-hmm.
this guy is all in. What do they fucking have on him?
It
Agreed.
was done on January 20th. I'm going to tell you, it was done
Mm-hmm.
on January 20th, 2008. And
Mm-hmm.
if you remember, there was an Israel Gaza thing going on at the time, and
Now they're mowing the grass again.
the moment that Obama took when his first day as president, the fighting stopped. You could look it up. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not an Obama apologist. I'm not saying that he's a hero
And
or
then
anything.
3 days later, he did his first drone assassination. You know
Yeah,
that?
no, he wasn't clean. I'm not trying by any means to
Oh no,
say
no, no,
that.
no! None of them are
Yeah.
clean. I think we're all on deck with that.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. I'm not claiming that. I'm just saying that that particular thing he was pretty strong on for 8 years.
Well,
The
Yeah.
Middle East situation.
I'll be brief. I think Biden was out to get Trump. If there was anything in the file, Biden would have released it. However, I think what happened, they investigated the shit out of Trump. And just like if they investigated the shit out of any of us, you'd find a lot of embarrassing things that weren't criminal things. And that's what's in the Epstein file about Trump. And that's why he doesn't want to release it. And also, he wants to push this Russiagate thing because it's helping him. He wants to make peace with Russia, and exposing the Russiagate thing and maybe prosecuting people like John Bolton and some of the other deep state people higher
He
up.
got busted for a bad AOL account. That's what happened. He was like, stuff went through his AOL webmail. But these,
And him drawing the him writing nice stuff and drawing pictures. I mean, I do stuff like that all the time to people who I don't necessarily like them. If somebody comes to me and says, sign my yearbook, sign my birthday book, sign my
no,
whatever.
that one took work. He actually had his secretary type it up. He drew the outline of the woman, and it's kind of creepy on a couple of levels, Those guys are pervs. Let's be for real. And the whole Russia thing with Trump has always been he laundered money for people. That's it. All the
Well,
apartments that he sold. That it was like the Russians funded Trump when every Western bank dropped him years ago. That's the Russian connection. And for
Yeah,
Hillary, it was a
yeah.
Hail Mary pass and a losing election. That's the Russia story. It has
I
nothing to do
agree.
with the. And yeah, every country rat fucks people's elections in other countries. Come on.
Yep.
It's just,
It's common. It's common.
I do agree. Well, on that note, let's
dun, dun, dun,
end.
dun, 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 dun.
And what's up, Jack? That's all, folks, and we'd like to thank you for experiencing the Drunken Fools podcast, episode 1. Charlie Kirk dies, Trump has a stroke, and the Epstein book comes out. And to end this, apparently I'm supposed to be stripping naked and taking a shit in public, but I don't think that's happening
Nah,
tonight.
nah, nah,
That's the
nah.
only reason I tuned in, Tyler.
Oh,
Yeah.
What's going
shit.
on?
It's
yeah,
nice meeting
Well,
you, gentlemen.
if you just
Enjoyed the
we'll put it
show.
in post.
if you just
Yeah,
shirt
it's
next
been good.
time, that would be enough.
Agreed. All
All right.
right.
Okay,
Take
and
care,
thanks for
everyone.
All
breaking
right,
in my
guys.
version Zoom on the new phone.
Beautiful. All right. Have a good night,
Adios.
everyone. Bye-bye.
Good night.
So glad we had this time together to have a laugh or sing a song.
All right. Good night, everyone.
I'll be back when the day is new, and I'll have more ideas for you.